joining me for Faithful Friday. Today we will be going over Exodus chapter 15 through chapter 24. And let's jump right into it. So we left off last week, Friday. Please excuse these puppies. I have 5 puppies and the mother and father. So I have 7 dogs here, and they're a bit on my last nerve. Okay. Just to recap from last week, we left off where the Red Sea was parted. The children of Israel crossed over across the Red Sea. However, Pharaoh and his army was drowned in the Red Sea. So from there, we're going to pick up from there in chapter 15. Chapter 15 is the journey to Sinai and the manna. So we're going to group chapter 15 and 16 together, how we talk about it. The Israelites traveled through the desert facing challenges such as lack of water and food. God provides water from a rock and sends quail and manna. It's a bread-like substance to sustain them. So let's get into detail in Exodus chapter 15 and 16. It's kind of ironic that we're going over Exodus at this time because it's a lot of things that's going on in my life where I'm having to journey without knowing. And I'm not really good at that. I like to plan stuff out. I like to know what's happening. I like to be in control of things. And with God, you have to be faithful. He will give you a vision or he will show you something, but he's not going to show you the whole picture because he wants you to have faith and to trust him and to walk by faith, pretty much walking blindly. So it was just ironic that this whole particular book, I'm going through it right now. And that's basically something that I'm going through in my own personal life. So let's get right into it. Exodus chapter 15. So they pick up where they're singing songs unto the Lord. They've just seen a miracle happen. They saw the Red Sea part. Their enemies was destroyed. So they're feeling good. So they're singing songs unto the Lord. And literally 3 days later, in the wilderness, they were without water. This was only 3 days later after they're singing the song, after God parted the Red Sea. And the water in Marner, I believe that's how you pronounce it. These names, I really can't. So please. The water was bitter. So with them seeing that God parted the Red Sea, I wouldn't really do any complaining. It's nothing for him to provide water. Why would he do all of that and still don't see you through your journey? However, they started complaining, murmuring, which is what the Bible said, to Moses about drink. So there again, God had to prove to them that he was a provider. He showed that he was a savior. Now he's showing them that he's a provider as well, because now he's providing them with water. So a tree was casted into the water, and the water was made sweet. He then started giving out laws. He gave them to Moses, and Moses began to speak these laws unto them. It was different laws, statutes, commandments, in which he wanted them to abide by. And he also gave them a covenant that he would not put any of the diseases upon them, which he did to the Egyptians if they followed his law. And of course, the children of Israel agreed that they would abide by what the Lord told them. So from there, they ended up in Elim, where they came up to 3 wells of water and palm trees where it was shade for them. And they rested there. So not only did God provide them with water, he also provided them with shaded shelter and abundance of water while they rested. So that was pretty much what happened in chapter 15. And moving right along into chapter 16, they started complaining again after traveling from Elam to Sin. Please excuse me, I have a cold in my sinuses, so please bear with me with this. Okay, so they started complaining again. They went from Elam to Sin, and they started complaining about food. Now, this is definitely like today's time. We can go to God and we can ask God to do something, and God can bless us, and we come up to another obstacle in the road, and then we begin to doubt what God is able to do. We begin to complain. We begin to get depressed or sad when God has proven time and time again that he's able to do exceedingly abundantly above anything that we could ask or think. Now, they never thought that he could part that Red Sea, but he did it. They never thought that he could turn bitter water into sweet, which to me, I feel that seawater, you can't drink it. It's like salt water or something like that. So for him to change that water from bitter to sweet, he didn't just lead them to a different stream of water. He changed that water for them. So, I mean, he's doing things like this and you're still complaining and murmuring. And not only complaining and murmuring of saying we don't have food, but they're saying smart remarks as well, because they're like, we could have stayed in Egypt if we were just going to die because we don't have water. Or we could have stayed in Egypt instead of seeing our children perish by the lack of food and all of this, when God has shown you time and time again, and it relates so much to our life. Plenty of times I've laid in bed and I was upset about different things. It was turmoil with everything. My work, relationship, all of these different things. And God would bring back to my remembrance things of where he stepped in and showed up for me in different occasions where I know that it was nobody but God who did what occurred and what happened, and he turned my situation around. And God was saying, if I did it then, why are you laying here doubting now? If I did it then, I can do it today. I'm the same God yesterday that I am today, and I'm able to do what you need done. And it's just funny of how he keeps doing like miracles in front of these people's face, and they're still complaining and still saying smart remarks, and they're really being unappreciative. And if we can be honest with ourselves, we're very unappreciative to God, to the things that he's done for us. We're constantly going to him asking for more instead of being grateful and thankful just for the things that we have. Just this past Christmas, I'm a single mother with 2 different children. Pay child support to one and still split all of my bills and everything. Split everything for my child. But because of the amount of money I make, they wanted to come after me for child support. We both have the same amount of time with my daughter and everything. But God still turned it around for my good. I was still able to provide the best Christmas for my child. The video is uploaded for both of my children. And still be a blessing to a whole nother family and provide a Christmas for a whole nother family and their 2 kids. That's what God is able to do. And I didn't sit up and say, well, God, I don't have this and I don't have that, and I don't have my mother and my father, and I don't really have a family this Christmas of my siblings around me, and all of these different people died and all of these different things. But you know what I did? I thank God for what he's already done in my life. The things that he's already done. The Christmas I was able to provide for my kids. Still able to pay my bills and got money in the bank. Not living from paycheck to paycheck. Those are the things that I'm grateful for. And when you can be grateful over the things that God has already done and has given you, God can bless you with something else. But when you're being greedy and you can't be thankful for what you already have, God don't have to move on your behalf and do anything. It's about being grateful and thankful and stop being unappreciative. And this book in the Bible shows how we continuously are unappreciative. At this time, Jesus had not came and sacrificed himself as the sacrificial lamb yet. We're still in the Old Testament, in the second book of the Bible. And Jesus hasn't even came. But we can relate to how these people were being ungrateful to how we're still being ungrateful today. So, I mean, this book is really standing out to me. As I stated, it's really standing out to me, and it's teaching me to be thankful and grateful for the things that I already have, and to learn to be appreciative for what God is doing in my life. So, here again in Exodus chapter 16, we see once they went to sin, they're back complaining again about food. So here, God proves once again to be a provider to the people. He made bread rain down from heaven, which they call manna. There again, God gave instruction on how and when they should gather the food. Now, a lot of times when God do something, he gives instructions to see if you're going to obey what he's saying do. Now, God gave them food. Now he's going to give them the instructions on how to gather the food. Now, he's telling them from day 1 through 6, you go out and you gather the manna. When I drop it, you come get it. Paraphrasing. On the 7th day, the Lord said that they rest on that day. You gather enough on the 6th day so that it'll tide you over for the 7th day. Okay. So, yeah, they should gather enough on the 6th day to sustain them for the 7th day. So, it's no food being dropped on the 7th day. The Lord is not dropping any food, and you don't go out to do any gathering on the 7th day. On the 6th day, you gather, and you gather for 2. Okay. The instructions was given. However, they did not listen. Some of the food spoiled. Now, he also stated, gather your portion. If everybody gather their portion, it's none being left for spoil, and everybody got their fair share. However, some went out there and gathered a little more than they were supposed to. Some gathered some and was like, look, I'm tired. You know, I done got enough. This is good enough for me. I'm not going to get any more or whatever. So they didn't even take their full portion. So some was left out there to spoil. So what you're saying is, Lord, I asked you for food and you gave me what I asked for. But then I'm not going to do right by it. I'm just, going to let it spoil. How many times today do we do that same identical thing? We can ask God for a particular person to come into our life to be a blessing. You want a different spouse, a certain type of spouse. You want a loving spouse, and I want this type of person. And then when you get them, you don't know how to take care of them. You don't know how to reciprocate. And this person has came in your life as a blessing. God has given you this individual, and you show God that you're not worthy to even have the person. This is the same thing. They asked God for the food. God gave it to them, and he gave them instructions the same way. When God gives you a spouse We have instructions of how we should treat them. We treat them of how God treats the church, the love of God. However, these dogs is really getting on my last. However, we don't do that today. We do pretty much the same thing as the children of Israel. We don't do right by what God gives us. We don't follow the instructions properly. So here again, it's like I'm constantly doing, and I'm coming up empty in return. All I'm asking you to do is follow instructions, and they're not following the instructions. So Moses was upset because he's getting the backlash from God. Moses is like the mediator between God and the children of Israel. So on the Sabbath day, which was the seventh, some of them still went out to find no food. So not only were some people not listening, didn't gather enough, gathered too much, left some out the spoil, it's some people that weren't listening with their ears, weren't listening. They still went out on the seventh day thinking that they're gathering something, when he had already said on the seventh, nothing is going to be out there, and that you should have gathered enough on the sixth. So that's why it was stuff out there that spoiled. So God spoke to Moses about keeping his commandments and laws. The Lord was getting testy with him. Like, come on now. You need to follow these rules. I'm giving you the food. Every time you complain and you ask for something, you're getting it. But yet you can't keep my commandments and the laws that I'm setting in place. So they end up eating the manna for 40 years, it states. And we enter into Exodus chapter 17 at this point. So they journey from Sin to Rephidim. I think I got that one right. Rephidim. They didn't have water again. And this time the people got upset. And they got upset with Moses. And they commanded water. So now it's like, I'm not praying, or I'm not saying I don't know if he can do it. I know that he can give us water. And the thing is, look, we out of water. And you see we out of water, so give it to us. We shouldn't have to ask for the water. Give us the water. Basically, as if they're owed something. Like God owed them this, and he should be Johnny on the spot with getting and doing what is needed and what they're asking for. So they're now getting testy with Moses. So they're back again with the complaining and saying they will die of thirst, and they're saying all of these little smart remarks. So Moses is tired of himself, So Moses goes to God and say, what to do with the people. What to do? They ready to stone me. They're mad at me like I'm doing something. So, tell me what to do. So God told Moses to provide water by smiting the rock. And because the people tempted the Lord, the people were saying, was God with them, or he's not with them? Like I said, they feel something is owed to them. So they're now cocky in their comments and the things that they're saying. So they're like, is God with us or he not with us? Is he going to give us the stuff or not? Stop pretty much penny pinching us or something. So a battle came up with Amalek. Amalek came and fought with them. due to the children of Israel tempting God. This obstacle got through in their way. And how many of us know when we sit up and we backlash God for something, he'll step back and let different things happen to you so you can see. I was the one that was helping you all along. Now, since you want to run your mouth, I'll step back and let different things happen to you until you realize that I'm the one that's been helping you all along. So, Amalek comes to battle. And even in the midst of that, God is still helping them. The children of Israel was winning as long as Moses had his hands raised to God. When his hands fell, they were losing. So they came to this realization. When we got our hands raised, and when Moses had his hands raised, and we're looking unto God and we're calling unto God, and our mind is stayed on God, we're in that winning season. We're winning the battle. But immediately, as soon as his hands began to fall down and he began to, I'm going to paraphrase, get in his flesh and think that you can do something on your own, God will step back and allow what he was keeping from happening happen. So what they did, they found out, like, oh, we gotta keep looking to God. So they propped Moses' arms up and they won the battle. They prevailed over Amalek. And that was pretty much the end of chapter 17. So moving right along into chapter 18, Moses' whole family came. He told the father-in-law what God had done, like all the way up to this point. He had gave him a whole synopsis. Jethro, which is his father-in-law. After hearing all of this, Jethro did a burnt offering unto the Lord. Jethro came to provide wisdom to Moses. Moses needed some guidance in the journey of leading the children to the promised land. And the way Moses was going about it, he was going to be burnt out. Although he was doing what God was telling him to do, because he did not come up with a strategy or was doing it in the best way, it was going to cause him to be burnt out. So sometimes just because you're doing something that is positive or good, don't mean that you could just do it any kind of way. You have to look at the most strategic way, the best way to get something done, or you can get burnt out from it. So sometimes God will put different people in your life for a season. They'll come into your life to steer you a little better in your journey. They could give you information, wisdom, guidance to keep you going on your journey, and give you that boost of confidence, energy, whatever it is to make what God has given you come to pass. So I believe Jethro came in this chapter to provide wisdom to Moses. He told him about, like, the way that you're going about this, you're going to wither away pretty much. You can't hearken to every single situation and every problem. You're only one person. You're not God himself. So Jethro told Moses how to set up for the people to be judged and walk in the way of God's laws. So in reading chapter 18, you will see where he started making it plain and breaking it down to how things should be set up, where he started making a structure for the laws and regulations and things that God was giving for the people to abide by, and what would happen if they didn't. So Moses did what his father-in-law suggested. And after that, then Jethro departed unto his own land. Like I said, some people are in your life for a season, for a particular reason and meaning, and then they will depart at that particular given time. And I believe that's what Jethro was in Moses' life for during that period. Now into Exodus 19, they were at the Sinai desert. Moses went up to talk to God, and God began to speak to him and tell him to keep his laws and covenants and among his people. Throughout here, all of the talk that you hear that was from Jesus, he was always giving instructions. It was either instructions or it was laws, commandments, and things, because he was trying to bring structure to the people. So Moses took the instructions and spoke them to the people. They stated they would obey the word of God and keep his laws. Moses went back to tell God what the people stated. And pretty much they again, like they said before, that they were going to abide by them and do the will of God. Now here, I kind of, with my notes, it's kind of backwards. So at one point, God told Moses that he was going to come down and speak. And he wanted the people to see him, to see and hear. And that God would come down to the people on Mount Sinai on the third day. Now, God told Moses to sanctify the people on the first day, which was that particular day that he was talking to him, the next day, and then on the third day, that's when he would be on Mount Sinai. Now, there again, he gave instructions. They can't touch the mount or they would surely die, he stated. They were sanctified, and he washed their clothes on that first day. Moses told them to be ready on the third day. And the people started trying to come up the mount. There again, not following instructions. God told Moses to go down and give his commandments to the people. God gave the laws to Moses in which the people to follow. This is now in chapter 21. God gives rules and regulations on laws and consequences of action. This is where he's establishing his laws and different things. God continues to provide rules and laws as well as the consequences. He was there laying down the law, drawing the line, telling the people what they needed to do to continue on this journey to make it to the promised land. It was, people stealing, so they had to make laws for that. People were doing just all types of things, forgetting that they were freed from slavery and they should be on their best behavior. They had long forgot about all of that, and they had started conditioning into sin and all of these other different things. And laws and rules had to be set in place for this body of people that were living together. All of these people have their own minds, their own beliefs and different things and things that they want to do or whatever it is. And they're all really needing to come together. So for this to happen, they had to have rules and laws and different things. So God, I want them to hear it from the horse's mouth. I want them to be able to see and hear, because they're starting not to even listen to Moses. They're getting so cocky. But even in that, they weren't listening because he said, don't touch the mount, and you start climbing up the mount. So it's like they just continue to be disobedient to the word of God. However, they would tell him, oh, I'm going to abide by the Lord's rules and regulations. And then when it was time for them to abide by it, they were found doing just the opposite. So in Exodus chapter 24, where we're coming up to a close, this is the last chapter that we went through. The Lord told Moses to come up to him. He also had Aaron, Nadab, Abihu. I think I said that right. Abihu, and 70 elders that were worshiping afar off. So only Moses came up to where the Lord was. And then Moses told the people the word of God. So as Moses went up there, God spoke to him and gave him the word. Moses was still the mediator between God and the children of Israel. And one of the things I want to highlight and bring out is that every encounter in the presence of God, you change. You're not going to be the same person. It's not just, oh, I got a feeling because I heard a song or different things. But when you have really been in the presence of God and touched by God, a change comes about. And this is exemplified through the book of Exodus. Every time Moses went before the throne of God, his appearance was different. And today, our appearance may not be different. We may look the same, but we're different on the inside. We're changing on the inside. It's no way that you can have a real encounter with God and be before God and don't change. And it's always a change for the better when you have an encounter with God. So that's one of the things that I want to bring out, that I didn't speak in these chapters, because he has went before God numerous of times. And if you ever saw the 10th commandment, it showed, I believe he had only went once or twice, where the 10th commandment had cut off. But both of those times, his appearance was much different. And his appearance was much different. And that's why I wanted to bring that to your attention, just to let you know that when you have really been in the presence of God, a change, it's a definite. It's there. A change will come. A change will be there. So that's it. We're going to stop here at Exodus 24, and we're going to pick up at Exodus 25 through 31. This is where God provides the detailed instructions for building the tabernacle, a portable sanctuary where his presence will dwell among the people. The instructions cover the tabernacle's construction, the Ark of the Covenant, and various priestly garments and rituals. So this is going to detail how the Ark of the Covenant came about, what the Ark of the Covenant is. I have did a lot of reading and research on the Ark of the Covenant, why the items that was in the Ark of the Covenant was there. I may wait until next week to get into detail with that, about how I feel the Ark of the Covenant, the items that was in the Ark of the Covenant, and how it relates to today's time. So I'll wait until we do that through chapters 25 through chapter I guess we could go ahead, so we can go ahead and kind of get through this book. It's pretty long. There's 40 chapters here. So, let me see. If you guys want to do Exodus chapter 25 through 31, let me know. Or we can do Exodus 25 through chapter 34. And that goes into the golden calf and the covenant renewal as well. Or we can just pick up at 32 and go on to chapters 40 to finish it up. Getting into the new year. And we'll start on over. Just let me know what you want to do. And we'll be out of this book soon. Either 2 more Fridays in Exodus, and we'll be done pretty much. And we'll be moving right along to the next book of the Bible. Thank you for bearing with me today. I have a call, but God is good. So thank you very much, and I will see you next week for Faithful Friday. Thank you, and have a blessed holiday.